Welcome, everybody, to the R.O.A.R podcast show. This is John Smith with John Bertan. Today we have a guest. His name is Tim Martin. Tim Martin's from Adams Township, and recently in Adams Township there was a fire, and Tim, unfortunately, his house burnt down. And he wanted to come onto the show and tell his story. So say hi to everybody, Tim, and tell us the story.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim. Where do we start on this one?
Well, let's start.
Well, first off, let's start on a good note. There's a silver lining. They did save the foundation, right?
Most of it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Tim, tell us about you first. Tell us about, are you from the community? Where are you from?
I'm born and raised Hillsdale, Jonesville area. Spent the majority of my life in Jonesville. Graduated '97 from Jonesville High School.
Oh, we're the same age.
Yeah. Was too smart to go to college. I just figured that I didn't need to give them my money to teach me what I already knew, and decided construction was going to be my way through life, and that's where I've been ever since. Took a little vacation from here to go out to Wyoming for a while, and decided it was time to come back and get back to the reality here, and we are today.
Do you have a family? I
do. Married my wife Kelly, almost 5 years ago now. Got a couple kids. Her kids are in their 20s, and my youngest is 10, soon to be 27.
Isn't that the way it always is? Boy or girl?
I've got a daughter. Her name is Ava.
Wait till they turn 13.
Right. And then got a set of twins that live in Arizona down in Tucson.
Cool.
They're going to be 18. So.
Well, how long you been living in Adams Township?
We bought that house in Adams Township September 2015.
Okay, so you've been paying property tax approximately 2.5 years.
Yes.
Okay.
An excessive amount. Just let's put that in there because they're not bashful over there.
Well, theft is theft, whether it's a penny or a million. It's still theft.
That's true.
Right. So, why don't you tell me about the fire department situation? Adams Township does not have a fire department, correct?
No, that's not correct. They do have a fire department. It's a building that houses their trucks.
No.
They don't have a crew that runs it.
Not the township.
Not the
village.
township.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you have there's a lot of people don't know this. There's Adams Township, and then there's North Adams, the village of North Adams.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's just a little section of town for the village, and then there's all the rural land of Adams Township, which is much bigger than the village.
That's correct.
Right.
All right, and the fire department is within the village, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so
Camden and Reading are set up a lot the same way. They've got a village fire department that covers contracts also with the township. Now, Hillsdale's a little different because you've got a rural fire department that's outside and a city fire department. So you got the city fire department just for Hillsdale City and the rural fire department for the outlying areas.
Okay, so you guys got a fire department. Well, I know because I was just at the Adams Township town hall meeting, not this last meeting, but the meeting prior hand, and they were tossing the contractor. I believe wasn't that, John?
Yeah, it was the February meeting in which they were guilty of a Open Meetings Act at the time that they were passing that contract.
I knew they weren't reading it either. That's funny.
According to their minutes, they were passing the contract with Pittsford Jefferson. They were not passing the.
Oh yeah. This is what they were doing. They were figuring out the contract. What they did was they decided they were going to keep the North Adams Village Fire Department temporarily until they built that place.
Yeah, if I could, in January is when the talk came up about Jefferson Pittsford.
Oh, that could have been.
That was breaking apart, and so they were going with the Jefferson. Fire department. And then on February, North Adams Village sent them a letter and said, hey, we would like to contract with you to do that. And they talked about that and passed it in February. Now, here's part of my problem. They're not good on minutes, on keeping accurate, detailed minutes. Well, but it shouldn't surprise anybody because that board doesn't even know how to conduct a meeting by parliamentary procedure.
That's funny you say that because the date on their contract was signed January of 2018.
So when we were there, they were passing the contract around, and they were like, well, we haven't read it. And
right.
I think it was Dwayne. Dwayne was like, I don't know. He's flipping the pages, pretending he's reading it.
Well, all of it was like, what do you think, Fred?
Yeah.
Should we? What do you think, Fred? Should we?
Yeah, they were they were trying to get each other's opinion, but yet they didn't have an opinion because nobody read it.
Well, because Fred hadn't told them what their opinion was yet.
Right. That's how that township works.
Yeah. So, but they did pass it.
I learned that pretty quick.
They did pass it without looking at it. Without reading it, and I was actually quite surprised.
Well, at the last meeting, what did Pat say? And I couldn't even believe she said this. Patricia says, "Well, we never read those things. We just change the price year to year." hello.
Right,
right. That was our outcome of our meeting. That's correct. It was quite entertaining.
Well, I find it weird that Adams Township is bigger than the village. I would assume they collect more taxes than the village in general. So it seemed like maybe the township should have like a fire department over the village, I would think. But I think what they were doing is assuming that. Tim, why don't you explain what happened to your home?
Yeah, let's get into that first. Let's
we can
get
into that, and then it'll be a lot easier to answer a lot more questions. The 17th of February was actually labeled as the perfectly wrong time and the perfectly wrong day.
Oh, that's 30 days from today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been 1 month.
1 month from 1 month ago today. I got a phone call, and I'm pretty sure that my records show my phone call came in about 3:30 in the afternoon that our house was on fire. So I called 911 to verify that because my wife and I weren't home for the day. And the 911 dispatcher, she actually raised her voice level and almost screamed at me, asking me if I was Dallas Russell when I called her. And I said,
"Well, who's Dallas Russell?"
Dallas Russell is the acting fire chief in North Adams.
Okay.
So
acting.
Yeah, he's an actor, all right.
Okay. Okay.
So she asked me if I was Dallas Russell, and I said, no, ma'am. I gave her my name, and I said, I got a call. My house is on fire. And I gave her my address, and she said, yes, it's your house. They're looking for the owners. They want to make sure nobody's in there. You need to get out there. And I told her then, there's nobody in the house. And at this point, I have no idea how bad the house fire is.
Sure.
So
probably the worst in your mind.
Well, absolutely. I can't even tell you what stop signs I didn't stop at or stoplights I went through or who I ran off the road that day.
I don't think I would have stopped unless there was a car.
And the speed limit signs they didn't exist that day. And
sure.
I mean, what are they going to do at this point?
Yeah.
Well, just to be clear, the DOT says as long as you're giving audio and visual warning and it's an actual emergency, you can violate.
Well, what would be the emergency for him to get back to his house? Why his house? I mean, he can't
because they needed
out.
Somebody to help put it out.
Oh,
they didn't know where his hose was.
It was frozen. So, in that answer, I did have my four-ways on because I was smart enough to do that in case I did get in trouble. So I was safe. After that, I'm continuing out towards my house, and I'm watching in the sky because from basically the airport to our house, you could pretty much see if there was a lot of smoke going on.
Sure.
And I didn't see nothing. And so I'm thinking in my mind the whole way out there that, it's not as bad as I'm expecting to see. And I come around the curve by the old J&M Dairy and see the second story of my house is completely gone. And all I can see is firefighters and smoke and fire truck. So I go up to the scene. Let's back that up. I'm immediately met by the media.
Media.
Hillsdale Watch. Brandon. This Brandon Thomas guy. He was right there as soon as I pulled up, wanting to take pictures, and I immediately told him, no, you aren't taking pictures of me. You can do whatever you want, but get up to the house to see that the house is completely gone, and still have no idea what has happened prior yet. I don't know how long it had been burning. I don't know. And I get up in time to watch them cut the side of the house off open so they can get into it. So then I immediately go back. Well, in the process of that, I called my wife to tell her, and I don't even know what happened from that point on. And
it's probably really hectic.
It was, to be honest with you, probably that was the 17th. I probably couldn't tell you anything that happened again until maybe the 20th.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that hectic for those few days, huh?
Well, that's about
it's a shocking
for people
experience.
That go through.
The things that were going through your mind and the immediate push that everybody puts on you as far
the
as
pressure.
The
stress.
What happened? What'd you do? What didn't you do? Where were you? What It just is like.
Which is ridiculous at that point in time because nobody's in the right mind.
Well, and they're taking advantage. In my opinion, they're just taking advantage of a bad situation.
Sure.
So I'm standing there, and my wife comes up. I seen her get there, and her daughter was there, and a couple other people we knew were there, and we're just standing there kind of talking amongst ourselves and wondering what was going on and trying to put two and two together.
Yeah, collecting thoughts.
And the first thing I noticed was there was no North Adams Fire Department there. There was not one North Adams fire truck at that house.
And they're how far down the road from your house?
3 minutes.
Okay.
2.1 miles to be exact.
2.1.
Patty Smith is the chief of the Moscow Fire Department. I've known Patty for 20-some years or better. And I immediately walked up to her to see what was going on, and she began to tell me a little bit of the story through all the commotion. If she would have known it was my house, she would have left without the tones. And at this point, I don't even know what tones are yet. Well, what do you mean tones? And
why your house as opposed to anybody else's house?
Well, I think she was just saying that more so
to make you feel good,
comfort the fact, because
she was.
When you're friends, I don't believe she would have left any sooner from my house, your house,
right?
Anybody's house.
Patty's good, solid people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And Patty's in it for the right reason. Patty's in it because she's a firefighter and she volunteers and she gets paid. I know where we're gonna go with this one, but she
I already got him on the volunteer firefighter.
Yeah. So,
but Patty's one of those ones that if they took the money away, she'd still be there.
I wholeheartedly believe it.
Yeah, just like I think Brad Benzing would too.
A lot of people would. A lot of people would.
So as this process is going on, we're standing in the side yard and they wouldn't let us get near it, which I understand. And Patty's crew was doing a fantastic job, and Hillsdale City was there, and Hillsdale Rule was there, and them guys were working it. They were working hard.
Well, now is your house by a bunch of other houses?
No, our house we have 2.5 acres on our lot, so there's probably, what would I say, maybe 1/8 of a mile, 1/4 of a mile between my neighbors and I.
Okay, so I don't know the procedures for fire departments. John, you may know. I really don't know, but I'm thinking why not just let it burn? Why go through the energy and waste the resources of dealing with this? Just let it burn.
Well, it's because the insurance company controls the world
so it's insurance that
one way or another.
I could see that.
And at the point where I seen the house originally, I would agree with you. Why not?
That's what I'm saying. Like if you got up to the house and it's already gone, what's the point of pulling out the hoses?
Yeah, because there's literally that house fire was so hot that there's nothing it was so hot it melted the pans out of the cupboards.
Yeah.
So we're talking 3,500 degrees anyway.
It was so hot that it melted the front of the garage off, and the garage is 22 feet from the back porch.
So North Adams did not show in the Adams Township.
They did eventually.
What do you mean they did?
I should have brought my papers with me, but
day after?
Could have been a week after, as much as it felt.
No, that's just mean-spirited and wrong. Funny.
They
did they show up after the fire was out?
Well, their first truck, apparently there was an issue with water. They were running out of water from everywhere they were going. They were running Moscow's.
You mean Moscow was running out of water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moscow and Hillsdale City.
Yeah, who were the people that were fighting it?
The firefighters that were actually working it. Were running out of water.
I see. Not that North Adams had a problem with water.
Right. No,
I'm picturing them filling up jugs of water and bringing it.
They probably. Yeah. Well, we won't go there.
That's why it took so long.
But they actually brought a pumper down because they needed water on the other side of they had a pool set up for their water supply and everything that they were drawing that the other trucks were drawing water out of. So they needed water on the other side of that. Would be the north side of our house.
Okay.
So they actually, and I've got a picture of the poor soul that comes down to this pumper truck. It's one guy, which. Number one, if you read anything on fire departments, it's illegal to run a truck with one guy.
No, in fact, your case alone will probably stem for someone like me or someone like Rutan here will probably stem for more research for us to understand the procedures of a fire department, so we know when we come across this again what happened and what's going on.
Oh, believe me, We'll have a lot of fun doing some research.
We might even have you back on the show to talk about that.
Well, and the other thing is too, each fire department has a governing board, and those governing boards make policy, and of course they make policy based on insurance companies and lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So each one is different, and of course
there's state regulations. I know that there's got to be,
and everybody's
right?
venues a little
federal regulations,
and everybody's venues a little bit different too. Like Hillsdale Rural, I know they've got a grass buggy, but I don't believe that Hillsdale City has a grass buggy because that would be kind of ridiculous.
Well, they do got one. They got that pickup truck that comes out with.
Okay,
Somerset has one.
Okay,
yeah.
But now they've got a 100-foot ladder truck that nobody else has because they've got the big buildings in the city.
Yeah, thanks for paying for that, John, by the way.
Yeah. I didn't understand how they wanted people with ranch-style houses to pay part of the ladder truck, but I guess.
So they did show up eventually.
They did show up. They brought one firefighter showed up, didn't have any turnout gear, and stood in the front yard with his hands diligently in his pocket watching as Moscow hooked hoses up to their truck and ran their truck.
Oh, he got paid for that too, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, that $10 or whatever it is.
Yeah, that $12. It's 12.
Yeah, so he got paid $12 to stand there.
That's right.
It's a good steak dinner.
And then he didn't do anything. And then Jonesville showed up because they needed foam support because our foundation wouldn't go out. They let it burn good enough that it got in the concrete, the cement blocks, and they couldn't get that extinguished. So Dean Adair from Jonesville showed up. Another great guy there. I'm a firm believer if there wasn't money involved, he'd still be there as well. They extinguished that, got that under control, and then is when things get a little hairy. Because then is when...
So the whole fire's out at this point?
The fire is out. They're getting ready to clear the scene.
Okay.
They're cleaning everything up, wrapping up, and here comes Dallas Russell.
What do you mean? Wait, before you go there, what do you mean by cleaning up? Like you mean putting their equipment away?
Putting their equipment away. Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
What, they picking up wood or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
they got their sweepers out. They were sweeping what was left of the carpet.
Yeah.
I was like,
trying to suck up the water.
Got a little water damage over here.
Yeah, a little smoke and water damage on this one. But then in the side yard, would be the north side. By this time, we had taken shelter into the garage because it was chilly and windy, and we were there was quite a crew of us there watching. And
in your garage,
in my garage, the garage that I own that didn't township taxes me underneath of it.
Okay,
are they going to tax you less now that the front's melted?
Well, you know,
property value should go down, right?
We'll go there too because I've made that call, and it's pretty interesting that you just mentioned that.
But you know, at the last meeting, there was an interesting question. A guy at the back, when it was all done, I heard all the slings and arrows that were thrown at him, but he stood up and he said, now that his house is burnt like that, does the nuisance ordinance 17 apply to him? Oh, they didn't want to hear that.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. You got that nuisance concrete pad now.
Oh yeah.
Well, I can promise you that they'll get a nuisance animal if I get one in the mail. Because, you know, Fayette Street's not a very pleasant place, but
I might send them one and pretend like I'm North Adams.
You are so wrong.
If you need attention that bad, we can do it without that.
You are so wrong.
But so anyway, Dallas Russell shows up, and he's standing in the north side of my yard, and Dean Adair kind of brutally, vocally attacks him on his performance at this point.
So she dressed him down.
That was Dean. Yeah, he definitely.
Dean. Okay.
Yeah, he definitely explained to Dallas some disconcern at this point. And I stayed out of it because I'd already been threatened once to go to jail because I was going to beat the crap out of the firefighter that showed up that should have been there 3 hours earlier that, today's my day. I'm going to show up when I want to. But so I was. And
people have to understand, though, that you were emotionally charged at that point in time. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything I've ever worked for, 2.5 years of blood, sweat, and tears on that house is. There it is in shambles, And,
I mean, if I came home, my wife was having an affair, and I killed the guy, it's just emotional, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the way it's supposed to work.
Well, you need to let me know when you're coming home. Anyway.
Well, with these new gun laws, maybe you shouldn't be able to have anything to get after him with, right?
Well, but the thing is, we have to understand that people are under emotional stress at that point in time, and sometimes people say and do things that they're not within their normal character that they would say or do.
The fire department probably is trained for that too, I would assume.
Well,
I would hope.
I'm assuming here.
And that's what it was. I mean, it was emotional driven. At that point, every emotion you can ever imagine. And if you've never been in a bad situation, you, for one, can't even remotely understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's something that's like once in a lifetime if you ever have it happen to you.
Well, the other thing is working on a house and living there is tough enough.
Well,
and when you do that and then watch it all be destroyed in front of you, that is... emotionally taxing.
And it's not like you're going to get your money back.
Right.
Let's be honest. The insurance rip you off the way they conduct their business.
And that's a whole nother story, too. It's just there's so much with this whole deal. With the 2.5 years, I mean, my wife and I, we laughed, we cried, we fought, we wanted to kill each other one day, we wanted to love each other the next day. I mean, when you live through that kind of a construction mess, I mean, that house was built in 1951 with multiple additions added back in the day when codes and rules and nothing was in effect. And so as we tore into this house, I mean, we replaced floor joists all the way to the attic on that.
Sure.
So I mean that house was new, and we always laughed. We called it our money pit. The movie The Money Pit. That was it. Right there.
I've never seen nobody not live in a money pit.
Well,
everybody I see lives in a money pit.
Don't tear your walls out. It gets worse.
Yeah.
If these walls could talk, trust me.
I just bought my first house a couple years ago, and I did that in the bathroom. I'm like, it's going to be like a 4-day project. No, it's like a 4-year project. It's a bathroom.
We call this our 10-year plan.
My dad, who'd been in construction his whole life, he used to tell people all the time, if you get through this, you've got a solid marriage. But you may not make it through this.
Well, we were told that. We were told that if you can make it through this, you guys were meant to be. And well, we were just we were just within weeks of being finished with that. And a lot of people are going to say, well, the front of the house wasn't finished. Well, that's a whole other story about Adams Township too, a bunch of extortionists anyhow. But to finish the fire story, Dallas Russell stands in my side yard, and he brings this young kid. I'm not sure who he was, but he was in turnout gear, so obviously he was in a fire department.
Right.
And he's talking to all the other firefighters that were there, and they're all, I mean, there was a lot of anger, if you can only imagine. The one thing I noticed about the fire department through this is that there is a brotherhood there, and I get that, you know, and you're going to...
It's a faction.
Well, and it's a brotherhood not just on that department. It's a brotherhood across
the nation.
Departments.
Yeah. They don't
it's
care
like
it's
like the thin blue line.
Right.
But for fire department. Whatever the line
call it
is.
The thin red line.
Thin red line.
Yeah,
but,
you know, go figure.
And so they're disconcerted.
It should be orange.
Right. They're
Depends
disconcerted.
on how hot the fire is.
Yeah. Their disconcern is obviously noted. You know, we could see that they were upset, but they weren't letting it happen.
Of course.
I'm pretty sure if there was
You're not in on the circle, man.
Right. I'm not in
It's
their
like when
circle.
I'm mad at my wife. You know I'm mad, but you're not in on it, right?
But they have some professionalism. I mean, anybody that's been in a professional career before has seen that. There's certain things you do in certain places and certain things you don't.
And so with that, I mean, I understood all that right off the get-go. Explaining some of that to my wife was a little hard. You know, still even to today, 1 month into it, I mean, you get talking to her, and that's part of the reason she doesn't want to talk about it a lot is you can go on an emotional roller coaster with her on that. I mean,
it's gotta be tough.
There's still days where, you know, I'm fortunate where I've been able to put my thick skin on now and let's
sound
go to the
great.
grind.
You sound great, dude.
Yeah.
I
don't know if I'd be that strong at this point, a month in.
There's two ways to look at this. You know, we can define strength in two ways. One, I can come up to you and we can duke it out and who's stronger.
Right.
Or two, we can do this the right way with words and rules and laws that will apply to us and see who wins the long. Let's see who wins the long game, not the short game.
That's true.
You know,
how much can you squat?
See, he goes to the short game automatically.
He automatically wants to end this quickly.
My wife said the same thing. But.
I don't know why you want to get so personal on that.
That's right. He does it all the time. But yet he censures me.
I see this. I understand. It's that tattoo on his finger. He makes him look like a tough guy.
That's it.
I just did that. Yeah, I did that just for looks.
Right. Well, I noticed that diamond tattoo that way. So when you clock somebody, you don't leave a mark. I like your thought.
So they were stressed out with each other.
Sure.
Obviously.
Well, then after they allowed us near the house, I was standing at what used to be the front door, just kind of looking in, taking it all in, which if you've drove past the property, trust me, there's not much to take in. You can see through one, from one side all the way through the rest.
Yeah, you didn't need to be at the front door. You can see through the whole thing.
But, to get a real look of it, I was actually standing there looking at in amazement of how much water was actually in the basement. And, when you're standing in the front door and used to be a house there and you're looking in your basement, it just kind of plays a sick role in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Out of nowhere comes Dallas Russell, and he comes up behind me and he says, "You need to hear my side of the story."
Wait, he's on the defense already?
Automatically.
How weird is that, dude?
Right.
Red flags.
Right. You want to talk about red flags?
What's that, Lost in Space, that robot?
Right. Yeah.
Danger, Will Rogers.
Yeah, danger.
There were a lot of flashing lights that day, but boy, he was wearing them on his shoulders on that one. Let me tell you.
Wow.
So
he must have thought you overheard them talking or something.
Well, I think he had already knew that at this point I had already learned that they didn't answer 3 tones from 911, and I'm still questioning in my mind what's a tone, what are we talking about, because I don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm letting them guys do their job, and I'm just looking at and he says that to me, and I turned around to him and I said, "Today is not the day," and that's all I said. And he says, "No, you're going to listen to me."
Oh yeah, you're going to listen to me.
And I gave him one more chance.
Obviously, they haven't had that training about people in emotional distress.
Yeah.
Well, I gave him one more chance, and I said, "Look, not today."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I even referred and said, "I've already been threatened to go to jail once today, and I don't really want to go."
Well, who threatened you to go to jail, anyways?
Well, as when I took off after that firefighter that was there by himself, and mind you, out of the emotional side, I didn't know. It just looked like
if you had some words with them, that's something else, But I'm just curious. And did a cop say something to you?
The sheriff's department told me that.
What sheriff? Do you know? Or what deputy?
I don't know which one it was.
Okay.
There was so much going on.
That'd be a field day too, John. If that's if something would have happened with that.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. But first of all, Patty grabbed a hold of me when I took off after the guy and just told me, don't do it. You know, today's not the day, and you know, it's all emotions. Don't do it. Don't do it. And of course,
so it sounds like Patty had the training.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna stop there. I was gonna. That was like an insult. You know, you're gonna show up at the end of all this finally after all. You know.
So this guy comes up behind you,
force you to listen to him.
Yeah, and he wants to explain his side of the story.
Sure.
Right?
And he says to me, "No, we need to have this conversation." I said, "All right." I said, "What side of the story do you have?"
I wish you had this recorded. That would have been great.
If I would have thought. If hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So you know, if I learned anything, it's to carry a recorder around all the
time. If a frog had wings, he would put his butt on
Were you
the
close
ground.
to a cop car?
No, I wasn't. But there was a lot of cops there.
You're
what
right.
happened?
Okay.
But they couldn't direct traffic, but they were there.
Yeah.
So
what were they doing?
I think I don't know. I think they had a special at Krispy Kreme.
I was just curious. Cliche here. No, I just thought that I didn't know what the procedures are for officers to arrive on scenes either. So I can't like make a comment per se because I don't know, but I have an intuition on what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, I can tell you that house is located between Malk and Gay Road.
Okay.
They had no traffic control prior to the house fire coming from the south. So at Gay Road, they had nobody blocking traffic.
So it sounds like maybe like a malfeasance of their duties.
Well, it was, and there was in my 911 FOIA records, there's multiple calls to 911 about traffic control, and they need to get the traffic turned because they were bringing them right up to my neighbor's house to the south and turning them in the driveway.
See,
to turn around.
This is a whole new side topic from the fire itself.
Oh, we got plenty. Trust me.
Yeah.
But you know, this is all supposed to be taken care of by the emergency services director. I go back
to what Scott Hepner said. Public safety, like whatever that means. Can you define that?
No, nobody can define it.
There was no public safety or professional safety that day. We had cars trying to squeeze down. We had cars that actually made it between the fire trucks and the edge of the road fighting this fire. Now, mind you, there's fire departments set up, fire trucks set up, water pools set up, and they were squeezing between to get through there. There was 2 sheriff's department cars sitting to the north of the fire, not even far enough up to divert traffic down Gay Road.
Well, they had to get close enough to see the fire.
Yeah, they had to well, they didn't want to miss anything.
Man, we could digress into that. So let's get back to the fire though. So he gets up on you.
So he gets up on me, and I turned around to him and I said, "What side of the story do you have? Look what's going on here. What side do you have?" And then I commenced to tear into him about not showing up, and
Sure.
And he immediately went to the defensive. We're not having this conversation today.
What?
Wait a minute. No, yeah, we are because you pushed me into it, so we're going to do it. And then he walked away from it.
How bizarre.
How did I get turned around the other direction?
Right.
I was headed north.
That was like Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd. Like that's what that reminds me of.
That was definitely a Roadrunner moment right there.
Yeah, like dude, I mean seriously, that's some Looney Tunes shit.
Yeah, that one definitely went meep and
oh my god.
Where's the Acme Anvil?
Right. So at that point, Patty came back up, and then there was another firefighter from, I don't remember what his name was. He was from the township.
Hillsdale?
Yep. And he said to me too, he said, don't do this today. You don't want to have that conversation with him. Well,
so you must have been loud, huh?
Oh, believe me.
Okay.
Well, they both knew that it's an emotional time.
Yeah.
And you're going to say things or you're going to do things that you're going to regret when you're in your right mind.
Well, and not only that, but that's a point when it's almost like putting a dog in a cage. I mean, at this point, now I feel like you've had me in a cage, and now you've been poking a stick at me, and then you let me out. I mean, that's kind of where your emotions are.
Tell me not to bite.
Yeah. Now you come to. I was leaving everybody alone.
Yeah, he was agitating you.
Yeah. And I've seen this happen now with going to these last couple meetings. That's almost their game. Like, how much can we provoke you before you finally snap?
And again, this is part of the problem with professional development and professional training. People need to understand the abnormal psychology that happens during these situations and know how to handle people in those situations. Not everybody's cut out to be a firefighter. Not everybody's cut out to be a cop. Not everybody's cut out to be an EMT.
How would
or
we
a
even know?
paramedic.
We don't even have standards for this type of stuff.
And this is part of the problem. The other thing is, and you've touched on this before, part of the problem is when we give hero status to everybody because of what they wear.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes a problem.
Yeah. These guys were your heroes, by the way. Tim. I haven't even gone down that road.
Anything you would say that would go against the heroes now makes you the bad person automatically.
Yep.
And this is part of the problem. If somebody goes above and beyond the call of duty, then they are a hero. But if people can't even step up to the standard of the duty, they're not a hero just because they wear a uniform.
Right.
And this is part of the problem. If you were sitting in a donut shop on 9/11 in Poughkeepsie, Illinois does not make you a hero because of 9/11.
Right.
So we have to, let's call a spade, okay? Let's just be honest.
So you got hot and heavy. He walked away. Then what?
That was pretty much about it at that point, because all the rest of the fire departments were leaving.
Okay.
And then he approached me one more time before
Why?
he left. Now
He wasn't done poking the dog.
No, he had to come to me to tell me that he had called the fire marshal, the state fire marshal in. Fine. Okay. And then he says, "Do you want a phone call when he's on his way, because I would assume he'd want to be here."
Fire marshal? I see. I don't even know nothing
Yeah,
about
there is
this.
a state fire marshal.
So what's the state fire marshal do? Investigation?
Yeah, they investigate for arson.
Yeah.
And
do
they're
they-
trained in those investigations.
Do they do that on every fire, or do they do that on selective fires?
Every fire I've ever seen, it's always, everything I've ever read is they always bring a fire marshal in because I think they're the determining factor.
Why don't you FOIA that? Why don't you FOIA some of the last fires and see if they came in on the last
my
ones?
next FOIA is to the fire marshal's
because
office,
because that seems like, just by you saying it, sounds like it could be selectively enforced.
Well, let's be honest here. If somebody's burning trash in a 10-acre field catches on fire, I'm not driving down from Lansing when we already know what caused the fire and what the extent is, and what the damage is.
And of course, if
I'm not coming down from Lansing.
Of course, and one of the members from the Exchange Club, if their house burnt down, we're not investigating that either. But
but that brings assumption on your part.
Well, that brings a valid point,
That's
though.
just assumption.
So I'm just curious if that's something that's selectively enforced.
Well,
I would FOIA just to check.
You bring a valid
Sure.
point to that, though, as to why are they only worried about the fires that cost money at the end?
Well, because let's face facts. The only reason why we have a fire department is to put fires out because they cost money, right?
Wait, did you
they
get a
cost
bill?
The insurance
Did
cost.
you
I haven't gotten a bill yet.
Well,
if you do, you got to show me that one.
believe me.
Fires can cost lives, but for the most part, it's about protecting property.
Right, I would assume so.
It is about protecting
yeah.
property.
All
And
right.
the other thing is we learned from fires in cities, when we used to have all wood structures, you get a fire in one house, it can go, Mrs. O'Malley's cow kicked over a lantern in Chicago, and we lost half of Chicago.
Right.
So it's important in that sense.
R.O.A.R. saved the people from moving out of Detroit because Detroit burnt down.
Yeah.
But are they worried about protecting our stuff, or are they worried about what the insurance company has to lose? Because that's where it's coming to me now.
Right.
What it is, they're justifying their jobs straight up,
Sure.
because they're getting the tax revenue. So, they don't want to lose their job because this is something that they enjoy doing. They're getting paid for it, like the chief or whatever.
And let's be fair, it is a necessary thing for the people that want to pay for it.
Yeah, whatever. I was going to say your opinion, but
No, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Whoever has that opinion should be able to have that service that they desire.
Well, that's why it should be privatized at
Right.
that point.
Well, not privatized, but paid for by the people who want that service.
What's the difference, John?
Well, if you choose not to have it, then your insurance is just going to be unaffordable, like always. So,
Because
it's pretty simple.
here, when you say privatized, people all go, well, these evil corporations. Well, your state is a
I see what you're
corporation,
saying.
and it's an evil corporation. So, 6 of one, half dozen the other. That's where that comes from. Right?
But do we have the statistics to show that the fire department is like that more favorable? Like, obviously, in your case, your house burnt down, you lost everything. So, like, everybody loses when that happens.
Well,
right?
in the private sector, if you're paying for a service and you don't get it, what do? You go to the Better Business Bureau, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the public sector, when you're forced to pay for a service and you don't get what you paid for, who do you go to?
Well, before
there's not a better. You can't turn the fire department in on the Better Business Bureau, right?
That's right.
Right.
Before Tim and I talked, or before you talked to Rattan, I'm pretty sure. Because someone posted this on Facebook right away on Hills.hot Debates. I think it was, I don't even know if you're a member on there.
I didn't even know there was anything like that.
Oh, yeah. So, I didn't even know, I don't think you were a member yet. And someone said that this house burnt down and there was issues with Moscow going out and stuff like that. The very first thing I posted was like, man, I'd hate to be the guy that had to pay all those taxes and then get the service provided to him. That's the very first thing I said.
Here we are.
And I was like, wow. So, he really did pay all those fees and then he didn't get the service. And this is a prime example of the theft that's wrong for the
And the other thing is, personally, I don't know if you shouldn't be able to ask for what you've paid in services back.
Right.
So,
no, I said that. I said
the whole time.
I said, can we get a refund?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do I sign up for that?
Yeah.
I guess that would be the
I think that's in federal court.
I'm not sure. That would be the civil suit, right?
Wait a minute. Would that be at Fred Fowler's front door? Do I sign up for that there?
No, I don't think so.
Well, that would be the civil suit, right, John?
Yeah, that would be the civil suit. That would be a
1983.
That would be a 1983 lawsuit.
That's a real grievance.
Yeah.
You know, you've been stolen from.
It might not be a 1983, but I do believe at that point in time. See, the law is there to make you whole, and if you did something and you've been injured, then the law is supposed to be justice in making you whole. So because you have been harmed where you've had to pay for something that you didn't receive, I do believe that the law is there to make you whole.
I don't think that I don't know if that fire department owes you a new house. I don't know. I don't know yet because I haven't even thought about.
Well, that's the thing. It's the court that
at
needs
least the pay that you paid out with interest.
But isn't it the court or a jury of his peers that need to decide who needs to pay him?
That's right.
And how much they need to pay him. That's really the question. That's what court's there for. That's what the law's there for. That's what a jury of your peers is there for.
Only if we had a bar ticketed attorney that had balls that would take something up like that. I know he would have an uphill battle with this case, but
there are a few. There are a few lawyers that don't have a problem. Standing up.
Because that's one of those almost into the sovereign citizen thing, fighting for getting a refund on your taxes. Come on.
Right.
You know,
but if that's what I was paying for, right? If I was paying for a service in the private sector, if I'm paying for a service and they don't give me the service that I paid for, then I either get a return on my money or they have to provide me the service.
Correct.
And after the house is already burnt down, you can't provide the service. That option is gone.
Right.
So now your house is gone. What was the deal with North Adams? What's the deal? What gives? So it's been a month now. Obviously, you've got a lot of stuff. You told me you've been fully in dispatch. So we got a lot of places to go now.
Now you're public enemy number one.
Oh, I am. We're very well known. We don't get to go too many places without people knowing who we are anymore. Which
I get that when I file too.
Which it's not always a bad thing.
People throwing milkshakes at your car.
No, we haven't had a whole lot of negative side of it yet.
No, because the common people are probably got your side.
Yeah,
well, they understand.
It's the upper echelon of
the elitists
of the government, local government people, and their friends and family that would not like you.
Yeah,
that's exactly a fact. So we attended the North Adams Village meeting first.
When was that, by the way? Because I want to go to the next one.
When I want to say
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was just.
Was it a week?
The township
before?
The township is on the second
Monday.
The village is on the first. Tuesday or Wednesday.
Well, something that I think you're aware of now. We've been in Adams doing a lot of work there lately, and I called the village in the last few weeks here. I've been calling and talking to their people.
Richard Beach?
Yeah, I talked to Richard. Richard,
you mean they're 2 days a week for 3 hours a day? You called them then?
Yeah. Well, I'm calling them at their homes.
You were able to catch him when he was there?
I'm calling their homes, and they're picking up the phone, but they're all scared to talk.
Right.
I'm asking questions about Fred Fowler being a zoning administrator, and they're paying his wage, and they're not getting the service because there's no zoning in their area. So I'm kind of figuring out why they're stealing money from their people, and so I'm not holding Fred accountable because he's just billing them.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm holding that council board on the village of North Adams, their council board, I'm holding them accountable.
Yeah, they're treasurer because they're the ones writing the check, right?
It's like they talk with walnuts in their mouth. Mm-hmm. They don't understand what I'm saying. They don't understand words.
Right.
I got to play Scrabble with them.
Yeah.
I got to downgrade.
And you always get the X and the Q tiles, don't you?
I get and they're scared.
Right.
They're scared.
Well, they all take an oath to the Constitution, but yet when you use words that are in the Constitution, they don't know what they mean. Why did you take an oath to it?
It reminds me of like a cop catching a thief, and he doesn't know what to say or do yet, and he's scared, and he's pissing in his pants. That's what these people are doing when I'm calling them, and I'm just asking silly text question.
You should have seen the night of that meeting. It was quite entertaining. I immediately called and got put on the agenda for their meeting.
Did you ask to be put on the agenda?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
That's what he was saying. He just
got
put on the agenda.
So they go ahead and put us on the agenda and let us know when the meeting is. And now the funny
they didn't let you. They have to put you on the
agenda. Well, I'm pretty sure they didn't want to let me on that one. But so anyway, we get to the meeting that night. The meeting's at 7:00, and I get there about 6:45. And they're all coming out of a closed door meeting.
Yeah, they're already setting up.
Well, here's the funny part.
That's a quorum, isn't it, John?
They're all coming out of a closed door meeting with their attorney.
Ah.
And here's the catch: their attorney is also my attorney.
Ooh, can't do it.
Uh-oh.
What, really?
Well,
yeah.
What's going on here? What do you mean?
He was our attorney through some child custody issues and stuff like that.
Doesn't matter.
But
yeah, that's bad.
That's conflict under the MRPC, the Michigan Rules for Professional Conduct.
He can lose his bar.
He can lose his bar ticket for that. And you need to make that complaint.
Is he still their attorney?
That needs to not happen.
No, we just found out yesterday he is done being an attorney and going to work in Coldwater doing some stuff for the court.
Okay.
So,
no, but the fact of the matter is,
he shouldn't have been advising.
He knows personal things about you because of working on cases. He is not allowed in a closed meeting with them. He has to recuse himself at that point in time. Once he finds out who the other side of the party is, that's labeled in the MRPC specifically.
That particularly is really dangerous. That's something that we probably might have to investigate a little bit more.
Yes,
because that is really
really wrong.
Yeah,
really wrong.
That's wild.
Wow.
But okay, so
well, I didn't know that at that point.
Yeah.
So here they come out of their meeting and then they open the doors for the meeting room so we can all go in. And we're sitting there, and the room starts to pack up we've got a huge support. As John knows, he was at the township meeting. We've got a huge following of support from the fire departments outside of North Adams.
Sure. You mean like from Moscow?
Hillsdale guys. I mean,
Hillsdale guys came out too?
Yeah.
Huh?
We've got a huge support with those guys.
Yeah, I wish I would have been able to come.
So
he was at Scipio that night.
So we go into the meeting, and we're waiting. And now this village doesn't even have a clerk or a treasurer for this meeting.
What do you mean?
They start the meeting with, well, we haven't had a clerk or a treasurer, so we got to swear this lady in to get this meeting started.
Shut up.
I kid you not. That's
if I can interject here really quick,
you know what's going on?
Just quickly. The Open Meetings Act is very specific that before they can go to a closed meeting, they have to motion, second, and vote on it from an open meeting. So they have to start their open meeting first. So now you have a lawsuit under that.
Yeah, we need to.
You do have an Open Meetings Act
we got to
lawsuit
start
on
on everything
because they have to start an open meeting first. They have to use parliamentary procedure to go to a closed meeting.
Hey, John,
and then they can.
Hey, John,
go to
before we badmouth them, because this isn't uncommon. This is what we're seeing. This is some of the problems.
But the only thing that makes it common is when you start taking.
I know. I just want to make it known for our audience. Mm-hmm. This is what we're seeing across the board, though. We're seeing it in other communities. Like I'm seeing it in Scipio, for an example. That's why I'm out there, because they're violating OMA. They're violating all these other state laws. Right?
Yeah, they're Michigan compiled laws.
Right.
But here's the problem: they're all using our tax money to be part of MTA, Michigan Township Association. Yeah. In all these classes that MTA are teaching them, they haven't taught them how to properly run a meeting. They haven't taught them parliamentary procedure. It seems like MTA would be better off teaching people that than the democracy that they've been trying to push down everybody's throat.
Which Tim probably doesn't know about the MTA that much.
No, I don't.
I'm sorry, but our listeners do. So
sure.
Well, you're telling us
podcasts.
Stuff that instantly red flags are growing up in our heads now.
Right.
It's like, my God, this is bad.
Yeah, it's wrong.
I mean, it's bad enough that the fire department didn't show up, but now you start getting all these other illegal criminal activity.
Right.
This is criminal activity.
Sure, it's misdemeanor.
This is boss hog stuff.
All right. and here comes the Dukes of Hazzard with us in it, right?
Yeah. Well, you are wearing an orange hoodie.
Right. Well, so this meeting starts to take place, and that's how it starts. Is with that happening, and I thought, man, this is kind of odd.
Yeah, it sounds weird, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was weird.
Okay.
And here you're in this dungeon of a room, like. This room has no light hardly at all. It's dark in there.
Did you guys say Pledge Allegiance?
We did do that, yes.
Is there a flag in there?
There was, yes, there was.
Okay.
So
I don't know. What you're describing seems to be a bar.
Well, I think they should move the bar over there. They got more room.
You probably get more participation too.
Might have more money. But the guy says the very first thing he says after that, which happens to be my new best friend, Mr. Beach. There, we've only ever had about 10 visitors a year, and boy, this room's pretty full.
Yeah, this is what they This is what they do to minimize you as a citizen that's being active. Well, I didn't have to be active until my house burnt down.
Right.
You know, that's how you feel, right?
Right.
So,
but then again, government only happens for people who show up.
That's
right?
true.
We've got a Republican form of government, supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you can't get enough people to show up.
It doesn't matter if I show up once a year, once every 4 years, or once every 10 years.
Right.
The fact of the matter is I'm showing up today.
But they get used to people not showing up, and that works to their advantage. That's part of the faction that's bred. That breeds faction.
Because when I'm in these other places, they say the same damn thing.
Sure.
They're minimizing the situation at hand.
Well, especially when it's a bet. Now, if they have a huge turnout and there wasn't a problem, they're happy. But if there's a problem, people show up. Now what we do is we
marginalize.
We marginalize people.
That's what they're doing.
Because then now all of a sudden your word doesn't mean much.
Yeah, because you haven't showed up.
You've got less.
Truth. You don't care about anything.
You get less truth points to what you say.
Right. Which, there is an issue where a lot of people don't show up, and we do got to get more. And I'm learning that through this, and I'm no different than everybody else. No, I probably wasn't really concerned with a lot of things until it happened to me.
Right.
Now, though, I look at this and I see how criminal it's been, and the fingers that are pointed the wrong direction. And now it is important to become involved.
Now you've seen the dragon uncloaked. You can't see the dragon any other way.
Well, it is, and my biggest thing is
it's
guys.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Well, guys our age need to start getting more involved because that's where this is at. And so my wife and I have been talking, and that's kind of some of the stuff that we've been dealing with is trying to get more people involved in the attention.
This is something that we hit on our shows, and it's actually your duty.
Right.
Yeah, and you realize the last county election there was 15 races and only 3 of them contested.
Wow.
So that's like that. What if we had the Olympics and each person ran individually? Right? We got 4 people running for the 400, but we make them run by themselves. What do you think is going to happen with their times? We have to have competition.
Right.
We have to have competition to get the best and the brightest. But we think that we have to pay people more to get the best and the brightest.
It also puts people in check. So, like, for an example, if I was already on and I got someone running against me, I'm going to do my job right? So you can't bring out the dirty laundry on me.
Yeah.
Right,
well, yeah,
so it puts.
I would hope you'd be doing your job right to begin with.
Well,
no, if people aren't watching,
you'd be surprised.
Right. Well,
I don't
trust
have
me,
to.
Right.
Like someone like John Burka. He nobody runs up against that dude.
Well,
right?
see,
Tim Wahlberg. Nobody's running up against that dude.
And
How about Mike Smith? Let's put that one in there.
Yeah. See, this is part of the problem. I had one of the county commissioners made a statement about me running for sheriff last time that, well, he's already run once and lost. What does that look like? That's just pathetic. Well, my thing is quitters never win and winners never quit, right?
That's right.
So it doesn't matter if I run for the rest of my life every 4 years and fail. That's fine.
Yeah,
because at least somebody is giving competition. Somebody is running against someone else. I'm not afraid to fail.
Although Tim probably doesn't think John's much of a pressure, but it does apply pressure one way or another.
A lot of pressure when because there was some things that were done illegally, and there was some pressure.
So go back to the meeting now.
So back to the meeting.
Dungeon.
Yeah, it was too. They got quite a bit of money in their accounts. I don't know why they can't put new light bulbs in, but
maybe that's why they've got so much.
They have a big council board. When I was looking through the book, they had like 9 council members or something like that.
There was quite a few of them there.
Usually boards are like 5. This one's 9, and it's a smaller community. I was really surprised.
There was 9 there, as a matter of fact. There was.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fire chief was one of them.
Oh.
Well, and it was real.
Ding.
Well, it was real entertaining because
the fire chief is on the council.
I believe so.
That's a conflict of interest, I believe.
You see how that might be a problem?
I do.
Yeah.
What if they need to spend money on the fire department? Does he recuse himself?
That's an ethical issue.
That conversation comes up in the township meeting. Trust me.
Okay. Okay.
So they call me up and let me do my thing, and I've done my research and I've done my homework on this presentation. I'm not just going to come in there and look like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Well, as I'm standing up, I look back and there's 6 sheriff's officers standing in the back of the room. 6.
Wonder what that's about.
Well,
I don't know because I paid for that.
Yeah.
Their attorney is also sitting at their table.
The attorney for
the village.
For the village.
Yep.
I didn't pay for that. The village did.
The new attorney or the yours?
No, the same one.
The same dude.
No.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd have some words for that dude.
Oh no.
So I start my presentation.
What's his name, by the way? Why don't you just say it?
I don't want to do that.
Don't put him on the spot.
We can Google
like
it. It doesn't matter. It's public.
Don't put him on the spot like that. Yeah. I'll ask him later, and I'll put it out.
Okay. I like the guy, so he's done a lot for me.
It's not. Okay.
Yeah, it's not about not liking someone or liking somebody.
It's not about that.
It's about calling people
a spade.
Calling a spade a spade. My thing is, I get this reputation all the time. Oh, that routine, he's a jerk. because I don't care if you're my brother. If you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong.
Well,
if you're right, I'm going to tell
you
you're
guys
right.
the information off the mic.
That's fine. That's cool.
I'll give you that information.
I don't have a problem calling people out.
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
I've called a lot of people out on this, so I just there's some things I want to leave left alone. But
okay,
you guys do what you want to do with it. I'll give you the information, but we're not going to do it right
because I've been called out before, and you know what? My feelings been hurt, and about 10 seconds later, they're all right.
Right, I understand that. So we're going through this meeting, and I start each of my presentations off the same way with the infamous comment from Dallas Russell of this was the most unperfect time at the unperfect day.
Yeah, it's the perfect storm, right?
Yeah, and it's unfolding.
Every tragedy is,
and it's unfolding honestly, it is unfolding that way. I mean, from the fire department to central dispatch to everything, it's unfolding that this was like
everybody dropped the ball.
Yeah, I mean, this ball got dropped real high. Trust me.
Well, there's a federal case in Hillsdale right now where that same issue happened, and we said that. Of course, anybody that brings that out is a bad guy, but. Yes.
Or talking about it, dissenting about it.
And that's Anthony's case. Everybody dropped the ball. I mean, everybody that touched that thing dropped the ball.
Ironically, he's in Adams Township as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, so I go through the presentation. In the board I've used, I've got a nice little display set up, and it's got the pictures of the house burning, because
like a science board?
Yeah. Yeah, like a little science fair project.
It's a trifold.
It's a trifold. And it's got
I was
all my
there.
pictures.
I saw it. I was quite impressed. It was pretty nice.
And
a volcano next to it.
No, that's the other kid's project. That was the other kid's project. Yeah. Oh, that's so wrong. That's so wrong.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so not.
Here I do all this work to make it nice, and I got you picking on it.
Yeah, that's just.
Gosh.
I'm done with jokes.
Yeah.
So we start this presentation, and they give me their undivided attention, like it's like. They didn't cut me off. They didn't interrupt. They didn't do anything.
They're professional about it.
They were professional about it.
That's good.
And every time it would come to a position where I would ask a question, they would look at their attorney.
Well, to be fair, Tim, which a lot of people don't know, citizens don't know this until after the fact. Be honest with you, when you go to stand up, do public comments and stuff like that, or even on the agenda, they're not supposed to answer you.
Right. Right.
But a lot of these small towns, they'll have a room of discussion, which is actually, in my opinion, a benefit. Because like Scipio or even North Adams, they'll sit and talk to you.
Right, and that's what I wanted.
Yeah. I
knew they weren't allowed to answer anything.
Right.
But
because any good lawyer is going to tell them, shut up.
Well, so as this goes on,
you should have stand in front of the attorney so they couldn't see him.
Right. Yeah.
Like have your crew stand up.
Right. Could you face the corner, please?
Have somebody keep calling him.
But as we get to the end of it, and I'm done getting closer to being done with my presentation.
You're probably getting frustrated.
I really didn't get frustrated with them.
Did you get any answers?
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of excuses as always.
But, so they were talking.
Yeah. They
just
had
not good answers.
They had what they tell me. They had 3 firefighters on vacation that weekend.
Okay.
2 were injured from their full-time jobs, so they were on light duty.
Right.
1 was fishing, so I guess I would have probably told me that they had 4 on vacation. And then the other 2 were working in cold water. Oh, okay. Well, that happens to be the chief and somebody else.
Okay.
So if you're the chief of a fire department, wouldn't you contact somebody and let them know you have no manpower?
What do you mean?
They didn't contact.
Well, you said Moscow showed up. What are you talking about?
Well, North Adams should have contacted Central Dispatch at that point and said, we have no manpower if something were to happen.
What are you talking about here?
He's saying that the police, that the fire chief said that all these people were out of service, but yet that had not been communicated to anybody, because had it been communicated to 911,
you're saying
911 would not have,
or a day prior hand. Hey, we're going to be understaffed.
Think about it. If they told 911 that they didn't have anybody to show up to the fire, why would 911 tone them out?
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Even that day,
hey, 911, we're not going to be equipped today.
Right.
Yeah.
We have no manpower in the area.
Okay. I see what you're saying now.
Our truck's down.
Yeah. So that puts the next.
Yeah, I get it. Like our station's down for the day.
Right.
Not a big deal because we're short staffed, whatever.
Hey, it happens, right?
Right.
Things happen.
Yeah. So everybody should get a tax break that day, right?
Well, not if they bring somebody else into cover, right?
They get. I don't even know how that works with the payments. With
this is
who's getting paid for this
what these
stuff.
agreements are. Even Patty said this in the township meeting.
Right.
When you said, well, they could use the $12,000. She said, look, we're going to come put out the fire whether you pay us or not, because we have this agreement. And this is part of that brotherhood, the National Firefighters Association. This is part of that whole thing where we have these agreements with our neighbors that if something does happen, we're not going to leave them out to dry. We're going to come help.
But did you also catch where Central Dispatch told her at the same time, even though you guys have a contract for mutual aid, we don't have to honor it?
Yeah, and this is part of the problem.
What is this?
My opinion.
That was the township meeting. We haven't made it to that part yet.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Sorry, I jumped ahead. Okay. I didn't digress. I jumped ahead.
What is it when you go forward? When is there another
it's
word?
Called
like
progress. That's why if you go backwards, it's called congress.
I'm an idiot.
But anyway,
in my terms, it's called fast forward.
Okay.
Well, if you go forward, it's called progress, right? If you go backwards, it's called congress.
Right.
So anyway.
So anyway, with all that going on and the meetings, and I'm getting done with my part, the board actually looks at their attorney and says, what should we do? And their attorney looks at him and says, first of all, you dropped the ball, and you should probably apologize. Then he says, you're going to have to get more money, so you might as well plan on getting more money in your budget.
That's what the attorney said?
Yeah. Oh, let's back that up. Mr. Beach, he says, he looks right at me and he says, are you a volunteer firefighter?
Oh,
he looked at you and said that?
Yeah, and I said,
no. Did he really?
I said no, but let me tell you.
Did he just slap you with the glove?
Yeah. He took it.
I would have said, "Has your house burned down?"
Yeah.
Well, I said no, but after going through this, I will fill out an application.
You know what that was, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's like a battle of the wits, right?
Well, how are you going to complain if you're
sizing.
not doing it? Yeah.
No, that was probably the lamest excuse. Veiled as a question I've ever heard in my life.
No, it's not an excuse. He's sizing. That's the push of the bear.
Right.
See how far you can go.
Well, that's what he said. He was getting poked with a stick,
that's
right?
exactly what that was.
That was the stick poking the dog in the cage.
Well, it gets better because then he says to me,
as if.
Then he says to me, "Do you know what the regular or the requirements are to become a firefighter?" And I said, "No, I don't, but I'll find out." And he says, "First of all, you got to go through a very severe background
check." Is he a
check.
firefighter?
Nope.
Oh, so you got a non-firefighter telling you about
but he's the mayor. But he knows everything. He's the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So he says,
I seen the mayor on Family Guy.
Yeah.
He knows everything.
Right. So he says you got to go through a real stringent background check. Okay. He says, and then you got to go through a real stringent physical. Okay. And then
you see some of those guys? Okay, but
then this is getting in. This isn't maintaining.
Yeah, once you're in, it don't matter how many
you're in.
I always wonder why they didn't take on. I mean, they're always bitching about not having enough people. Why don't they just get felons to come on their crew?
Well,
the city hires felons.
It goes there. Trust me, I've already went there.
I was just kind of curious, like I didn't know. Okay.
So then he says,
"Oh my gosh."
Well, then he looks at me and he says, "And you got to pass a drug screen."
Oh my God.
I said, "Okay, really?
Can't smoke pot."
I said, "Okay," and he says,
"Can't go to the doctor."
No, he says, you got to pass a drug screen.
Oh, you must be growing marijuana plants in the basement.
I said
he saw those plants in the basement.
I'm going to turn them in on my itemized list, trust me. But he says, no, you got to pass a drug screen.
He said it 3 times?
3 times.
So
and I looked at him and I said, are you insinuating I can't pass a drug screen?
Yeah.
He's obviously that's what he was pushing.
And somebody in the audience says, he drives school bus for North Adams Schools. What are you insinuating?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, mind you, I've already went through the federal background checks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have my FBI fingerprints, my live
You know, Tim, you can't touch little boys, right?
I know.
Tim, you can't touch little boys.
Well, I don't.
Tim,
I don't go to the Catholic church. I don't go to the Catholic church for okay.
Touche.
Wow, this is so. Okay, so he's insulting you. He's prodding you nonstop now at this point.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where if it was me, I would have had to say something right there on the spot, probably.
It was getting to that point, but again.
I would have been a little incredulous at that point.
Yeah, I think I probably would have.
They were trying to
jumped over the table.
Well, it's apparent they tried to set me up because why else did they bring 6 sheriff's officers to that meeting?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see. That's why
because you were emotional at the fire, so they were assuming if they pushed enough buttons.
The funny part is none of them seemed me emotional at the fire, except for Dallas when he tried to berate me up there and beat me into talking to him. So they knew. If they pushed my buttons, they'd get me upset.
That's what they were trying.
So
John, we should probably figure out how much total the county and city and townships and what they spent on this whole ordeal.
Well, it's not cheap, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, this costs thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
not
they
hundreds. It's not hundreds.
No,
it's
I mean,
thousands.
you got 6 employees with cars and fuel and everything, the insurance, the maintenance
that I paid for.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah.
But if it's county, I paid for it. Damn.
Yeah, you did too.
Damn,
Thanks,
you too.
John.
Damn.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I'm already mad about this.
Yeah.
So okay.
There's insult to injury.
So after he's prodding you a bunch of times, then what?